Our next author is a Twin Cities freelance photographer and writer and inventor. As a matter of fact, invented this lovely lamppost behind me, which shows up at all of our min-spec gigs. In his copious spare time, he breaks his knuckles working on inventions and designing weather vanes. His recent works include Little Library's Big Hearts, The Wit and Wisdom of Little Library Keepers, and the novel Z is for Xenophobe. Welcome, young adult and urban fantasy author Terry Faust.
Hi, Mom. This is my recorder. All right, this is actually going to turn into a radio play for Redshift, which is a science fiction radio theater run by Fancy Pants gangsters right here in town. I suggest you look it up because they look for short stories. They don't have to be radio play format. As long as they can turn it into a radio play, which means usually a lot of dialogue, they'll take it and produce it. So do a good job. This one is called Baby in Flight. It was going to be called Baby on Board. Actually, it's called Infant in Flight. It was called Baby on Board, but that's been used. All right. And this would be the equivalent of Scene 2. Mavis, Cebus. Captain Bronson Powers toasted his partners, the Vegian Cebus Clicks and the human Mavis Witherbane. To your most profitable cargo yet. May the Japanese never tire of Europa's green tuna. Hear, hear, Mavis said. Actually, Mavis is a woman, so hear, hear, Mavis said. And may Cebus's culinary telepathic prognostications always guide us so successfully. Bless his Vegian mushroom brain. Cebus whistled, one of the few noises Vegians can make, and lifted his drink with one of his 5 tentacles. It was entirely due to your inside connections, Miss Witherbane. He sipped through a tiny slit of a mouth in the front of his toadstool-shaped head. His cue-ball eyes swayed on foot-long stalks above his head. A sturdy vegetable trunk beneath ended in a snail-like foot which provided sure, if not slow, footing. Mavis smiled demurely and said, "Of course, we owe much to our captain's bold gamble in acquiring the green tuna." "Oh, it was well-calculated business move," the captain said. Given your knowledge of the Japanese taste for exotic seafood and Cebus's inside information on their desire to expand their product line, well, it's all part of being versatile in the import-export business. I suspected you were versatile when I first met you, Mavis said, with a naughty wink. And I've enjoyed your backing, the captain replied with a straight face. Green tuna is much less nerve-wracking cargo than mining explosives, and of little interest to rebel factions, now that the emperor is dead. And much more profitable, Mavis hummed. Financially, that is. She smiled. However, I think you are now making enough to stop hauling things that blow up. Deadhead to Europa? Bronson said, scratching his short hair. I appreciate your business, but the trip is profitable with mining explosives. Mavis murmured, of course, you'd be compensated. In fact, there are still a few details you and I need to firm up before we consummate our partnership, Captain. Mavis, Cebus thought, you do understand I'm a telepath, and while you humans may enjoy double entendre, to Vegians, it is obvious and frankly vulgar. Not offended in the least, Mavis said, "Oh, really? And there's me thinking you're a fun guy. Wait for it. Okay. Please, let us not sully this celebration with puns. Though I do agree with you about no longer carrying explosives. With no air, the transition of power may be volatile. Piracy has been on the rise. Your cargo may become more of a target, Captain. Sebus Mavis, the captain intoned. Let me do the worrying. To our partnership and green tuna. Ah, yes, Captain. To the slugs inhabiting Europa's thermal vents. May the Japanese never see the green tuna in the flesh. Revolting creatures. This excellent Regalian wine, root wine, is very fine indeed. Glad you like it. I'll send you a case. And you, Mavis? Oh, I'd be happy to receive mine in person. Mavis rolled the wine in her mouth suggestively and crinkled her nose at Bronson. At 80, she'd indulged in every form of human and inhuman sex with every form of sentient being in every part of the quadrant. Her first bloom of womanhood may have faded eons ago, but her remaining petals could pluck the buttons off a Marine colonel's jacket. The noble adventurer has been one of my more fanciful investments, she said. I don't expect I'll be disappointed. Nor I, Sebus added, and sipped more wine. If Mavis was the money, Sebus was the marketing brains and financial planner. With his help, the adventurer was more often than not showing up with the right cargo at exactly the right time and location. And Mavis and Sebus got on wonderfully, having zero sexual interest in one in another. Vegians were asexual, sprouting from spores. Bronson set down his goblet and considered himself a happy man for the moment. He lived on board the Adventurer, and the universe was his pearl, or green tuna, as the case may be. I'll do my best to see I don't disappoint you. I'll drink to that, Mavis purred. Dell rapped on the bulkhead beside the captain's open quarters door and swung her hardened visage around the corner. Captain, I have a visitor. 2 visitors, to tell you true. Why must she talk like a hairy-legged Scot? Mavis asked. Bronson said, Dell, can't you see we're having a meeting? He was grateful for his engineer's interruption. He'd been wondering how he'd duck Mavis's thinly veiled after-the-meeting offer of sexual bliss. Who is it? He asked, trying to sound annoyed. Lassie named Lana, a tasty bit, and a wee bairn. Bronson had no idea where Dell picked up her Celtic dialect. She was from old Detroit. A wee what? Mavis sniffed. Never one to approve of Dell. Dell, for once, can't you speak plain English? Sorry, your ladyship, Dell said, tugging at an imaginary forelock. And clearing her throat, she switched to an upper-crust English accent and said, There's a comely young gentlewoman waiting to confer with Lord Captain Powers. She cradles the fair spitten image of what I expect is the living and breathing fruit of his lordship's wandering loins. For good measure, she curtsied and added, My lady. Mavis harumphed. Sebus whistled and bent his little mouth sharply to one side into what Bronson had discovered to be the Vegian expression of amusement. I will depart, Sebus thought. Thank you for the drink. I had no inkling you were sprouting family. Well, that makes 2 of us, Bronson said. Your spawn is most important, Captain. You must attend. I congratulate you on a successful business trip, and what I hope is the start of a new family. I will go. The captain said, I'm sure it's all a mistake. Sebus smacked his thin lips. Family is a thing to celebrate. You would agree? Bronson made a weak noise of agreement.
I see you do not. Well, life has its moments. Till next we meet. He drained the last drop of wine and made for the door. Mavis understood her chances with Bronson were thwarted and set her drink down. Bronson, you naughty boy. Well, I guess now we both know females are not excluded from your intimate attentions. I'd like to meet in the future and discuss these visitors. The last was delivered in sharp reproach. I'd be happy to, Bronson lied, once I get to the bottom of this. Getting rid of Mavis was to be desired, but mothers with babes in their arms was hardly his first choice in tactics. He reached out and brushed his lips on Mavis's knuckles. She quivered with delight, slapped his face lightly, and then kissed him affectionately. Later, mon capitaine. Dell listened to Mavis's receding footsteps, then turned to Bronson. That ball-busting bitch. Now be nice, Delightful. With Mavis's help, we may stop loading Tavox and C4 to Astromax. The captain was the only man Dell allowed to use her full name. Dell merely grunted. So, will you see the girl and baby? The baby has your nose, I might add. And I might add, you should keep your nose where it belongs. And I might add, if certain of the captain's parts were kept where they belonged, we wouldn't be having this conversation.